Thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. We might as well just sort of, finish up what we started yesterday when we were talking about ABDULRASHEED Maina, fugitive former federal official that has re-emerged and was, sent to the Ministry of the Interior. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari has removed him. And well, yesterday, as you recall, we were saying it had to be fake news. Either fake news, it was so improbable, it just doesn't happen. So it had to be fake news. But if it wasn't fake news, then the presidency and just about everybody in government knew much more than we did. And so it wasn't fair. They weren't sharing with us why the information that they had that would enable them to bring in a person who allegedly had committed such a serious criminal offense. We're talking about 2 billion naira allegation of what's this fraud now? It has to do with that identity card in the office of the head of service. Well, now we're hearing in the papers that the vice president has spoken to the EFCC, make sure the guy is apprehended. The presidency has spoken through a tweet by Mr. Femi Adesina. PMB orders immediate disengagement is the word used. Immediate disengagement of Mr. ABDULRASHEED Maina from service, asks for full report on circumstances of his recall. So there it is right there. The presidency knew nothing about this. The vice president knew nothing about this. So who exactly did know about this and how could this be going on? Well, that whole line about it's no more business as usual. Let's just look at that line. Well, our guest this morning, Mr. Nelson Ekujimi, comrade probably is better, social activist and public affairs analyst. Thank you very much for coming on, Nelson.
Good morning. Thank you for
having me. And Mr. Adeola, well, again, comrade would be better. Comrade Adeola Shweton, National Coordinator, Democracy Vanguard.
It's my pleasure. Good morning.
Look, Adeola, help me out here. Because now that it is emerging that neither the vice president nor the president knew about this whole caper. How could that happen? It was in broad day. It's metaphorically in broad daylight. You bring a man in, you're going to put him, you're going to post him to an office, go in there as director. So what were they expecting? Whoever was behind it, that it would just be, that would just be the lie of the ground and we just continue with our lives. How can people do such things? I mean, what are they taking the presidency for? Nobody was worried that we can't do that. Everybody will see it and no, we're not crazy. Why wasn't there any of that? No, we're not crazy. You can't do that. Why didn't that happen?
Well, I think it's just a stage of impunity. A new stage of impunity. So we descended to a situation of magic moment in Nigeria, of which, if you carefully listen to the late Fela Anikulapo music, he talked about underground movement, underground system. He talked about government magic. And these are indices of what you see. The more you see, the more you look, the more you see, but the more you don't understand. But however, let's go back to the issue of this presidency. I think it puts paid to this idea of the notion that a one-man integrity riot squad can make any basic cleansing of an inherently corrupt system dominated by arrogant elites. An ultimate question was asked by the man that was alleged of grass-cutting scandal. He asked us if we recollect vividly that who is the presidency. At that point in time, you know the level of impunity in the presidency and the aides that surround the presidency. But it's not accidental. They have opportunity to know that perhaps Mr. President is a man of integrity, perhaps is slow to act, and even if you have children at home, and they know that you may be tough, but you are not acting in the tough way, they're going to take you for granted. It's as simple as ABC.
Okay, well, I'm going to come back. Nelson, it's quite a muddled affair. Certainly now at least we've come to a realization of the kind of things that can actually go on in our country, no matter how frontal. I mean, how much more frontal can you get? Federal ministry, a director in any federal ministry, it's not easy to hide that kind of a person. But they did it nevertheless. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's easy to hide a federal, maybe it's easy to hide a director. By the way, remember the whole story about double promotion, that not only was he seconded by the head of service on double promotion as well, but also further muddying the waters. People, of course, understandably don't want to be named within the EFCC, are saying that there's some sort of complicity and protection coming from the DSS. Now, between the EFCC, DSS, all other security agencies, secret services, this gentleman came in here and these guys handled all of that without the president being aware or the vice president being aware. It just boggles the mind and you begin to worry, wait a minute, who's in charge, Gongon? Who actually is running affairs in this country? If the president 2 days later, through Mr. Adesina, is now saying that I want a full report on circumstances of his recall, how can we be two days behind the curve of what's important to the very integrity of our whole moral outlook, where we want to be?
Well, thank you very much. I think we have this cliche that eternal vigilance is the price for liberty. The fact that Mr. President is a man of integrity and character, which is not in doubt, does not dovetail that Mr. President will be all-knowing, because only God knows all. Mr. President is a mere mortal like you and I, and that is why Mr. President himself has appointed, or the Constitution gives him the powers to appoint helpers. That is why he has a vice president, he has presidential aides, and he has ministers. The truth of the matter is that what this has really shown us is the rot in the system. And it tells us clearly that the civil service needs serious cleansing, because you want to ask yourself, this so-called person involved is not an appointee of Mr. President. He's a federal civil servant. And there's a body or an institution responsible for the employment, for the discipline, and what have you of civil service officers. So you want to ask, if somebody has been alleged to have committed an infraction, even while in service, because we know definitely he doesn't have immunity, and the man was reported to have, gone AWOL since 2013, you want to ask, who authorized that redeployment back to that ministry? We need to ask those at the end of our affairs that, one, we need to see the letter authorizing because no other person can redeploy this so-called officer without the office of the head of service.
But you would have expected, perhaps one is being too classic about it, but one would therefore have expected that, look, even if the president can't sack a civil servant, I was reading something about a lawyer, G.T. Ogunye, was saying that the president doesn't actually have the powers. That has to go back to the Federal Civil Service Commission, for matters that you just spoke about. Yeah. At least the president can sack all those ones that he employed. All those ones that those ones don't need to go. Whether it is the Attorney General, if necessary, whether it is Dambazao, whether it is the Chief of Staff, I mean, the president can fire all those ones for causing this monumental embarrassment.
I think we need to go back again. You remember that SSS or DSS wrote a damaging report against Mago or the EFCC, and up to now, nothing has happened. So it's like we just left a clueless government to a disjointed government. Because government is not about anybody doing whatever it feels like. So people are taking opinions, people are taking examples. And I beg to disagree that integrity is not a permanent shifter's title. It's a question of relativity. What you are doing now and what you are doing in future. So integrity of Mr. President is being questioned now on the basis of how he's acting, you know, to effect discipline among the kitchen staff, the kitchen cabinet. Because it's too much. The issue of the grass cutting scandal, what happened up to now? The billions, you know, seen and located by EFCC, a panel was set up. Up till now, we are yet to come into conclusion. So when these heaps of refuse are not cleared, you are going to have maggots and flies. This is what you are seeing. And I'm asking that even though this particular person is a civil servant, it's not here. It's not somebody you call Ategun.
Oh yes.
Because,
by the way, you're right.
Because if somebody disappears,
because he now reportedly has disappeared again.
Is that, I mean, no, that one should be a joke.
He now reportedly has disappeared again.
I mean, it should be a joke, and if that is true, I think it just be they just locate it somewhere in Asorok, possibly, because it's not possible. You have the security.
Because it is beginning to
look, I've traveled. Even ordinary bloggers, ordinary people who write against government are blocked at the entry point. Ask questions. So how can somebody who left as a fugitive comes in and nothing happens? And it resumes.
And now we're hearing all
you don't
sorts
need
of
to tell
allegations.
the VP, they didn't need to tell anybody to start acting.
Exactly.
Or the president, you don't have. If you have a system that's working.
And it's even you see, when you look at
You don't
it, according to news reports, the VP was on the way out to
doesn't have
Indonesia or
business
someone, therefore called for a meeting. And as you're listening to it unfold, it's sounding much more and more improbable. Say, are we serious here, or is someone pulling our leg that such highly important matters are being handled in this way? It's like Mr. Oshibajo, Professor Oshibajo, if you didn't catch him, might actually have caught a plane whereupon he won't be aware. That was the impression that was got, because he was on his way out to Indonesia when he just did this last thing before, you know, becoming airborne. It's clear, you know, let's spoke about disjointed kind of an administration. Well, certainly, I don't know about the communication flow in that place, in this government. The communication flow where between the EFCC allegedly and DSS allegedly, they have this feud such that one is accusing the other of protecting, and right now, in fact, reports go as far as saying that Maina actually is in a known DSS safe house. So it's become wild. Now it's off the hook, off the scale.
Well, it's not unexpected, because you must be very, very conscious of where we are coming from, and the fact that we are not yet out of the woods, despite.
So when you say it's not unexpected,
it's not unexpected, because we were all living witness in this same country where we have come to live with the fact that anything goes. It is in this same country that, you know, a former minister for Interior presided over a recruitment scandal, and nothing happened.
Yes.
It's in this same country that a minister awarded a contract for 2 bulletproof vehicles above statutory powers, and nothing happened. So if we are saying this, it calls to question the vigilance of the Nigerian people, that look, at every point in time, you must realize that the issue of governance is not only the responsibility of those you have appointed into office. You as a citizen also has a responsibility to keep those you have appointed on their toes, because this whole issue calls to question, you know, the integrity of the civil service. As far as I'm concerned, it also tells you clearly that if we go to bed with our eyes closed, some people, even though we know we have voted for a new government in power, there are still some elements who still believe it should be business as usual. But it is now our responsibility as citizens to tell them, no, we are not going back to Egypt. We just have to take the course to the promised land. When we'll get there, we don't know. But we must be on that path.
It's all sounding nice and religious. Not going back to Egypt, but it's scary, really, when you look at it. It's scary because suddenly it seems like we're running a country that doesn't have what you guys are always talking about, any sort of a system. Because, as you said, President Buhari is not, he's not all-knowing. He's just one man. But there's a system. And so, I would have thought there's a system such that you can't have a known fugitive coming in and in the knowledge of people as high up as head of service, according to reports that we read yesterday that we were saying might well be fake news. It was actually seconded, or it was actually posted to the Ministry of the Interior on the recommendation, not just of the head of service, but part of that recommendation was also, by the way, throwing a double promotion. The man's been away for a while.
It's also part of remaining in terms of elitist arrogance where we were. I have not seen it change. Because you ask yourself, up till now, nobody has resigned. We are not talking, this is not, we are not looking at movies. We are not looking at drama. That somebody came in.
We don't have a resignation in our culture.
I know, that is what I'm saying.
This is
that the
unfortunately
change
what
has
they're
not
going to
come.
say. Yes, yes.
Because up till now, you don't expect Mr. President to say, okay, report, investigate, and we start waiting.
That's
you
what we have now.
Investigate why some have resigned, why some have been arrested. Then people will see that something is being done. What's going to happen now? When we have seen that reports over reports have not been exposed, the conclusions have not come out. So what's going to happen to this? Who says it's not going to do the way? I mark you that Interior Minister and of course the head of service and others that are involved directly or indirectly are still keeping in the office. Shows nothing fundamental has changed. And it calls to question too, that issue of a one-man integrity squad making any basic impact in terms of a rotten system where money is all, mark you, is a nullity. 2019 is coming. Well, that is why a lot of...
And now that you brought up 2019, I remember
that's what we're seeing.
I remember the speculation that Mr. Rashid Maina has actually on WhatsApp. He's not been shy about his ambition to become 2019 governor in his home state of Borno. So a very public man, and the extent to which these officials have taken this, I'm still trying to figure out how the president is still in charge. The president and the vice president, how they both still are in charge of the country. I'm still trying to figure that out. Because if this kind of a thing could happen without their knowledge, so what's that whole intelligence, what do you call, all that retinue, all the way information flows, all the extracts, etc., etc. What happened?
Well,
you're top there. You're supposed to have people feeding you. Let me bring Mr. Maxwell in, calling in from Ghana. Good morning, Mr. Maxwell.
Hello, sir. Good morning, Uncle Yore, and good morning to the two gentlemen.
Thank you for calling in.
The studio there.
Sure. So, what do you make of this situation now?
Yesterday, I called him yesterday.
That's
after
right.
Mr. George, my friend, called from Lagos. I called him yesterday, and I told you that the Nigerian government has planted the seed of speculation in the Nigerian populace. For every 10 speculation in this administration, 5 will come true. I said it wasn't true yesterday. But I believe also from the bottom of my heart that it cannot, that man, a fugitive. Let me take for instance, let's say for instance, where I worked before, when you go on out for 7 days, my brother, when you come back, you will be charged. What did the head of service did to Maina when he came back after gone as a fugitive for a long time? What did the head of service did? They did the opposite. They called him back and they paid him according to the papers 22 million naira.
Arrears.
In fact, we are just jokers in Nigeria. I am bleeding for Nigeria.
Yeah.
I am very, very bleeding for Nigeria.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Maxwell, for calling in. You're almost in tears, actually, when you just look at the situation, because here we are pretending to be a cohesive nation where, I mean, when people say those hurtful things about, well, you know, in Nigeria, anything can happen, we mean it as a joke. We don't mean it to become real, but it's now turning out to be real, that anything can happen.
Yeah, it can happen, anything. Well, you know, aware of recent that the JMD of NNPC, at the height of that allegation, account allegation, the second day was with the president for Juma service. That sends a wrong signal. How do you expect SSS or EFCC guy to invest such a person? Is this telling us that the only place he can pray is AROCHUKWU Mosque? And Mr. President, body language is confusing. Okay. No matter if he has not been found guilty, at that level, you have been alleged having conflict with my Minister of State. Yeah. You dare not come close to have prayer with me.
Well, you just need to show you. All sorts of things are going on.
It's saddening.
So what do you now think, starting with you, Nelson, what do you think is the way out for the ordinary Nigerian who, unfortunately, look, I'm not trying to be melodramatic about this, but it's almost like every Nigerian is now on his own. If there is no system to just protect us, and, you know, it's not so much a physical thing as you don't have a season of anomie. You have laws, you have rules, you have regulations, you have norms. And none of what has happened with Mr. Maina and co. is any part of normalcy. So it means that this abnormalcy, this kind of abnormality can just visit you anytime and nothing will happen. That's the scary part.
No, it will visit you and nothing will happen if you keep quiet about it. Because if you look at the media, the anger that Nigerians have exhibited about this issue, even if a person is dead, I'm very, very much afraid that person might, be waking up from, from death. You could have a revival, sort of, because of the fact that we must collectively realize that, like I said earlier on, if we keep quiet, like Yorubas have this saying. So
we have to take the matter into our own hands.
Yes, Yorubas say.
And stop expecting people to behave normally.
Yes.
We have to say we won't stand for that abnormal behavior.
According to a psychiatrist, Nigeria is estimated to have 170 million people. He said we have 60 million people who are mentally challenged.
Let him go and sit down, Roger.
No.
Let him go and sit down.
No.
I understand what you're saying. It's a wake-up call. But the person that said it's not a Nigerian.
No, Professor Nebo said over 57 million Nigerians. the former minister for
Reverend Dominic, thank you very much for holding on. Good morning.
Good morning. The network is delaying. Let me go straight forward and talk. Good morning to your guest there.
Good morning. How are you?
I want to remind Mr. President Buhari, he should recall back to history. In 2010, all the nation loved Goodluck Jonathan. Even in Lagos here, opposition party voted for him on presidential, election on 2010 or 11 election that brought Jonathan into power until they deviated. You know the story. Buhari government has become a disappointment to some of us. I've said several times. Every time this government, blab, my wife will shout on me, change. The day Goodluck lost election, I did not eat in my house because my wife is a ardent supporter of Goodluck Jonathan, and I said there must be a change. But this change has become an insult. I had the day we made an argument here about the letter of the Minister of State for Petroleum, and I had someone say that the man did not talk about contract. That document is in my fourth year, and I have to go back to it and print that document out. The man mentioned contract in black and white. What is contract? Is agreement between two people. But I was also disappointed by my pastor colleague, a senior colleague pastor, who said it was on contract. But that's by the way. What happened now, if this government is not careful, by 2019, we'll be so confused. Because I don't know who is going to take over from Buhari. If Buhari is so fair in this manner, who's going to help Nigeria?
Indeed.
This nation is standing up pressure. We should go back and know what to do. But there's no gainsaying. APC and Buhari have become a monumental failure. Sorry to say that. Good morning, Nigeria.
Well, good morning, Reverend Dominic. Adiola, what do you think we can do? Is it what Nelson has already suggested that, well, we just have to become vigilant and just shout out, because it looks like you can't expect any kind of appropriate behavior from those who are running our affairs.
Well, it's obvious that there's no qualitative change. What we have is just a magical connotation somewhere. And it's obvious that even up to now, PDP and APC have not declared their campaign fund for the presidency and others. So it means there's no basic difference. All this will happen because we don't know the funders of the parties. We don't know the funders that gave big money to the presidency during the campaign. So what that means is that we are likely going to have sacred cows, fat big cows, and they'll be showing their faces.
Okay.
So in that wise, while we are not sleeping, Mr. President should show leadership by getting the confidence reposing in him, working out.
Okay. Stay with us, please. We'll just take a break. Be right back. We'll continue taking your calls, because that's what this section is really all about, to hear what you think about the whole melee. Welcome back. Some of the confusion unraveling over the whole Maina affair. It's so improbable. Yesterday we said it had to qualify for fake news. But then federal government comes along and says it's not fake news actually, but we're as befuddled as you are. In fact, the president has asked that there be a full report on circumstances of the recall of the fugitive former federal official. And then again, according to newspaper reports, well, he's gone under, again, nobody knows where he is, then suddenly, I mean, you begin to wonder, is this a game? Are we being serious here or what? But according to newspaper reports, now that he knows the FCC is, you know, by the way, it was the VP who is alleged to have said that one. Now that he knows the EFCC is on his trail, he has disappeared again. What? Okay, now it appears it's one thing before coming into office. When you're on the campaign trail and all of that, it's one thing, one kind of an attitude, because one would never have imagined that situations like this and quite maybe a handful of other ones that have happened could indeed happen in a Buhari-led administration. So what is tying the president's hands? What is it that gives some people the confidence to go ahead and do what appears to be a suicide, go on a suicide mission in terms of your career, in terms of your job? That's a suicide mission. But people still did it, and now the president is left to be asking for a full report on circumstances of his recall. Well, let Mr. George, who has just called in, let me take Mr. George. I'll come straight back to you. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Thank you. Uncle Yori, let me start with the statement made by the gentleman on the left. I know he is a leader of a political party, so his views about the political party leader in power is expected to be varied. But let it be known, there is a huge difference between personal integrity and governance skill. He said that the integrity of Mr. President has come to question. I don't think so yet. Because have you caught him stealing money? Have you evidence to show that he has deviated from his simple lifestyle to that of unsubstantiated opulence? Those have not happened, and for as long as that is the case, I cannot say his integrity is in question.
He probably meant it in a vicarious sense.
Well, in whatever way, but many people may not understand it that way.
Okay, Mr. President traveled to London.
You know, yesterday I said it even without conducting any investigation, that the president and the vice president could not have been aware of that kind of development. But I think it is coming out now. The president needs to take a second look at his kitchen cabinet. The truth must be told. His chief of staff and the attorney general have been fingered in many of these things. The letter that was written to the Senate about Magu, the chief of staff was fingered there, the attorney general was fingered there. The issue of cutting grass report and things like that, these same officials, they are fingered there. This one again, they are being mentioned. If I were the president, it is good to trust, but you must trust based on evidence. He should change his chief of staff. That's all I can say today. Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you.
I am not a leader of a political party now. I'm a member of Socialist Party of Nigeria, which is yet to be registered. We fulfill all conditions. We are in court. November 2nd, there will be judgment. But we are appealing that under this system, there's no way Mr. President can act better than this.
Okay.
There's no way, because it's a monetized politics.
I'm going to come back to you, but I'm happy that you sort of clarified that you clarified. So I came to you, and this whole thing is what do you think makes the presidency, that will include both gentlemen, as it were, appear to be looking the other way and letting these kind of things happen? People, Mr. George was just enumerating with some scandals that happened in the past where ordinarily you could have swept your kitchen clean of the cabinet it has. That this cabinet is not working for me. You're not flowing with any of my styles.
Okay, well, I think like the last caller, one is very, very disturbed about these developments. You know, these are developments you cannot even in your wildest imagination assume will occur under a Buhari presidency. But the reality we have here is on ground today.
So why do they keep doing it to Mr. President? Why do they think they can be doing it to Mr. President?
I think it is high time we all call on Mr. President to do an holistic overhaul of the presidency. It's like some people in his cabinet or in his presidency are not on the same page with him. And time again, we have been assaulted. Okay. Whether Mr. President and Vice President knows about it or not, the truth of the matter is that this issue has become an embarrassment.
Okay, Joshua and BIDA, thank you for holding on. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling.
Good morning, and how is the family and how?
Very, very well, thank you. Very well, thank you. So what do you make of the whole scenario?
I told you that news was not a rumor. And hope you are getting it.
Yes, we are hearing you.
From my own speculation or from my own observation, it looks like it may not have been in government or have been in the service of the Nigerian government for years. He has even possibly been receiving salary. All these things they are just doing is just like a propaganda. But I'm just telling you from my own observation that on the anything is obtainable. Buhari's hand is not high. Even if you bring an angel into this very nation, our system will never allow that angel to work. Hope you are getting it. So we are whom we are. Are you getting it? And things can never change except we decide to have our own, individually, we have to have our own moral rebirth before things will happen positively in this very nation.
Okay.
Thank you, and God bless you, Uncle Yori.
Thank you very much for calling in. This is very, very worrisome. It is because of who we are. So who are we is the problem. Who are we? We want a change. That's who I think we are. We said we didn't like the situation that had been happening right up until Buhari came into office. Therefore, Buhari, take the ticket. Go and do what you say.
Honestly, I'm not fascinated by these excuses on behalf of Mr. President. Mr. President is a general in the army, and he knows the meaning of leadership. It's like you are blaming a mere corporal that a general is losing a war. Nobody appointed all those aides for Mr. President. He did. So I'm not giving to this idea of some aides are sabotaging what? He loves it. He has the power. They are not constitutionally appointed. So be that as it may.
Yeah, you see, because there's plenty of truth in what you say. We've been saying this, that the buck stops on Mr. President's table.
Very true.
At the end of the day.
Yes.
So there's a sense in which I was even saying to Mr. George that maybe those things that Mr. George took exception to, you mean them in a vicarious sense.
No, what this is prevented Mr. President from announcing the total amount of his medical expenses in London.
Okay.
It's part of integrity.
Mr. Umar, good morning. Umar?
Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, please, I just came in between discussions. I understand as a whole issue, we have to consider. APC is made of people from PDP, and those in PDP, most of them are the brain behind the last regime failure. So Buhari has come with a change. He alone cannot make that change. And the whole system, as the last speaker has said, we have to individually take our own corrective measures. Otherwise, you know, we'll continue repeating this and this. Almost each day, you find this problem here, another one there, another one there. So actually, Nigeria has room for change. But that change,
yeah, but
we don't expect it
Umar,
to happen within a short time or period.
Yeah, I understand. I hear you, Umar. But why
Yes.
do you think, Umar, why do you think the president is maintaining or retaining all those around him, these names that we've been hearing that have been facilitating these apparently facilitating these embarrassments?
Yeah. Yes. What I'm saying is, we have to individually, we have to have that. If we are serious in the change, we have to do the changing ourselves.
Okay.
We have to do the changes, and as one of the moderators, as one of the other persons there sitting with you has said, we have to. We don't have to close our eyes when we see something to talk. We have to talk, and we have to take that correction. Okay. And the government must be serious. Otherwise, we are blaming PDP, and now it is APC. Then by 2019, which government are we expecting again? Is it PDP, APC, or which one again? So actually, Nigeria needs better and serious-minded people to govern our system. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Omar, for calling in. Well, interesting, but we still have to go back to, yeah, the president can't do it alone, but the president still is the symbol.
Yeah, yeah.
All eyes turn to the president.
Very true.
And at the end of the day, we'll always add that the president and his team, but
yes.
It is the president.
Definitely.
Just like
Definitely.
Jonathan too.
And
Definitely.
his team.
Yes.
And so this is where I think the answer to my question about why is Mr. President tolerating those who are perceived, the word is perceived,
Because he loves them.
Perceived to be
He loves what they are
causing
doing.
more
He loves
more
what they are
good than
doing.
harm.
He loves what they are doing.
I
Well-
think,
well,
what, I
the-
think
he
what
knows
is
it.
happening is that a lot of what we are insinuating, you don't expect the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to just wake up and do, you know, take a drastic action without having the facts on his table. So maybe those facts that we assume Mr. President should have, maybe he's still piecing them together. I'm speaking from the point of view that I'm outside. Whether you feel Mr. President loves them or hates them, I think that is your right to express.
Mr. Femi in Kaduna, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Okay,
How are you, sir?
what do you how do you see it?
Fine. Concerning your topic this morning, sir.
Yes, concerning the president.
Our president.
The president didn't know that Maina was back in town.
Hello, our president. If you look back, we will see that
we see that when the President Buhari was a military head of state, the man that made Buhari to be strong that time is Idiagman. And this regime, the vacance of Idiagman, Idiagman, this was vacant. That's why you see all these lapses. If somebody like Fayose or somebody that is strong is the vice president, you could have seen what Buhari could have done.
Oh. Did you just say, what was that bit about? What was that bit about your preference for vice president?
Sir?
What was that bit, your suggestion? Did you say something about Mr. Fayose?
I'm saying that I didn't be somebody that, some person like Fayose is the vice president.
Okay.
You could have seen the difference.
Oh, okay.
Our president is a gentleman. A gentleman cannot rule this country. Nigeria is one of the countries that a gentleman cannot rule. That's why you see how this, this one they say is what are they calling it?
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. It's good you spoke up to the place you spoke to, because you sort of shed a bit more light, because I don't know how to now take this. So you want somebody, this country cannot be ruled by a gentleman. You want someone like Mr. Fayose, for example. So I didn't quite understand whether that was a compliment, front-handed or back-handed. But we're still on this whole matter. Umar also said, you know, dovetailed into your line that, Nelson, that at the end of the day, it's the people. What will the people stand for? And I think there's this sense in which our leaders test us. In fact, they don't even test us again. They know us. And I think they know that nothing is going to happen. Nothing. They will shout and they will keep quiet. Otherwise, how could this kind of a scam, this kind of a ruse have been attempted? Never mind, completely executed before the president now belatedly reverses and asks for an explanation.
Yeah, I think a major problem of this country, of this present government, which obviously not likely to learn from the immediate bad government that we had, was the over-celebration of unprincipled followers and supporters that created some artificiality that Nigerians have been captured, Nigeria can be ruled. Now that Mr. Integrity is there, let everybody go to sleep. You know, this unprincipled wing, which I call ABAPA wing of the human rights communities, and over the Republic, has given this sense of lordship to the presidency. Well, we are in. Policies and actions of Mr. President were being misconstrued as, if you criticize now, they say you're enemy of the system, or of the government. So in that wise, Mr. President and his team may have taken solace that perhaps they were doing something good and better. Because first of all, have to love your government.
Let me find out what Chooks wants to add to this conversation. Good morning, Chooks in Ikeja. Chooks. Mr. Chooks in Ikeja. Chooks in Ikeja. Final call for Chooks in Ikeja. The flight has taken off.
Because the last time we had President Jonathan, you had this term, transformation ambassador, or whatever they call themselves. They came out with so much, things that are so funny. He has done this, he was done this. The last time I went to Benin, through on the road, and I saw the banners on their paper that he has finished the whole thing. Then I asked myself, are we still living in the same country? I thought the president, current president, whom by no way, personally, I feel is better off in terms of personality disposition compared to many of them. But however, we need more than one-man integrity squad. And this is where particularly our friends in the human rights community, and society groups, in the media, should not go to sleep.
Don't you think we make a bit too much of the one-man army, Mr. President?
Exactly.
So isn't that perhaps an understandable overstatement? But it's not so. It's not true.
No, it's not true. It's only those who are living in the clouds who when you applaud whatever the government is doing, they feel you are over-pampering the government. For them, Mr. President is a saint. He was looking for angels to govern the country with, and they give people all sorts of names just to intimidate, harass, and blackmail. If, as a critic or as a civil society group, you find government doing what is right, it is your responsibility to comment.
Exactly.
And when you see that the government is doing what is wrong, it is also your responsibility to voice out. This issue about the recall of Maina, if the press had not blown into the open, maybe there are so many other Mainas in the civil service back.
In fact, that's a very Mr. Divine. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yeri.
Oh, thank you very much for calling in, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Yori, you see, this issue that we have been deliberating on all this is uncalled for.
Just between yesterday and today. But tell me why you think it's uncalled for.
No, the reason I'm saying it's uncalled for is because of I voted for the Mr. President. I campaigned for Mr. President. I left my work in Lagos and go down to Makurdi and make sure that I vote for Mr. President. And behold, I'm disappointed with things that is happening with his cabinet. And the idea says that when the water spoils from the head, it will definitely reach the down. When the water spoils from the head, the down will definitely receive it. So this is what we are seeing. I want to say that the APC-led government has failed us woefully. And I'm not surprised, and I will not be surprised, that come 2019, the way they came in is the way they will go out.
But wait now. We're just halfway in. So to say has failed, this is, you know about football matches now, half time now. So when they come back for the second half, you never know.
No.
They can score 7.
No, this will not be 90 minutes. They will play only for 5 minutes.
Okay then, thank you very much for calling in.
Well, I think the whole issue bogs down to ownership of the country by all of us. And what that means is that we don't go to bed with any government, but we'll be at alert.
That's what Divine was just saying.
Yes,
that look, he said he went to great pains. Divine says he went to great pains to ensure that President Buhari became the president.
This is legitimate.
But he's now disappointed. Well, all the people that are surrounding Mr. Buhari now, nobody elected those ones.
Definitely.
It is Mr. Buhari that we elected, and he now put these guys in.
He trusted them.
He trusted them. And when people raised their eyebrows at some appointment, they say, go and chill. He has a right to appoint whoever he wants,
Definitely.
whoever is going to get the job done, and those he trusts.
Definitely.
You have a wife, you have a wife who's troubling you, and you keep the wife and your younger brothers and sisters are complaining. What's their business with that? They have stayed over 4, 5, 6, 7 years, breeding children for you. Is that my business as a younger brother to say, oh, my brother's wife is bad? If it's bad, it's not going to keep him there.
Well, our last caller today, Mazi OKOROAFOR. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Yori. Good morning, our guest in the studio. Mr. Yori, see, we are in a country where you talk, people will say you talk too much. Tomorrow, Maina will vie for a senatorial job or a governor in the state of origin. Yes. That is Nigeria for you. Exactly. My question is, why must he, as the civil servant that disappeared, decided to come back to the service? That is the question. Now, people are talking about attitudinal change. Attitudinal change is not something you buy from the market. It starts from the home. Now, you look at a country where we find ourselves. We sit down, recycling. That is why we are having this. Now, you were talking about security agents that said that they can't find him. How? Did he disappear by air, or he has a drone that will take and disappear from drone? I don't know. That is the question. Now, look at the UK. Look at the USA. Look at France. They are moving because when people talk, the government makes use of it. But here in Nigeria, when you talk, what do the government do? Suppress what you are talking. At the end of some people say you are against the government. That is not. Let us call a spade a spade. If you want to dominate, like I used to say, if you know you are not comfortable in a particular place, what you resign. That gives you a respect that the man at the level was saying, you resign and go. That is what people do. But today, what do you do? Recycling is Nigerian problem. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day in Lagos.
Indeed. Thank you very much. I suppose we're going to have to leave it here. And there will be many Nigerians with a heavy heart that what is going on for now seems to be what is going on. Where the way presidents think differs. So many of us would have said, clear out the entire kitchen cabinet. You need new guys. Those guys are not furthering your work. But, well, it's Mr. President's prerogative.
Yes,
and so for now, we have to try and be understanding the president's choice, and maybe we're misunderstanding those guys that are in office.
Even if he does, if he does and the system stays, nothing is going to change fundamentally.
Even if we see any action being taken that is not in tandem with the wishes and aspirations of the people, we owe that collective responsibility to speak up.
All right then. Nelson Ekunjimi, social activist and public affairs analyst, thank you very much. And ABDULRASHEED, national coordinator of Democracy Vanguard. Thank you, gentlemen.
It's my pleasure.
For sharing your insights with us. And so that's our program. Join us tomorrow, please, for a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.